Now, when it comes to electric cars, there are two brands that stand head and shoulders above the rest. I'm not giving you any points, nor you lot any points, for guessing one of them correctly, because it happens to be run by a quiet and unassuming chap called Elon.
Never heard of him.
No, really?
No.
Don't believe you. So what about the other one? Any ideas?
I reckon I know what it is.
Okay.
I reckon I know what it is.
Go on
But before we tell you what it is, make sure you subscribe to the Electrifying YouTube channel and click the bell button, then you'll get notifications of all our future videos.
And while you're at it, just type your answers in quickly now. You know, have a guess and see which you think, because spoiler, it's not this one.
Now I know we left you hanging on for all of 4 seconds, but we can reveal it is BYD, the biggest electric car brand that you've never heard of. Yeah, last year they sold 911,000 pure electric cars, and if numbers continue like that, it won't be long until they take over Tesla.
That is true, and in fact they have already overtaken this lot, one of the oldest car makers in the world, Volkswagen, who sold 570,000 electric cars around the globe last year.
That's a massive
I know.
That's like 400,000.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Wow.
Part of the reason why they're doing that is because BYD are producing smaller, affordable cars that have now arrived in the UK, including this one, the BYD Dolphin, which is in fact so freshly arrived that it's a prototype and we can't actually drive it.
But welcome to the UK. Welcome.
We couldn't miss up on the chance, actually, to see this car next to the VW ID.3, because I'm going to really put my neck out here and say I think BYD could well become the people's cars for the electric age.
Oof. I mean, it's got me thinking.
Oh yeah, that's always a worry.
Yeah, but it's got me thinking, are we going to start changing our attitude towards certain car brands? Like, is BYD going to become the new VW or the new Ford? And as we just so happen to have two cars here, almost like we planned it, we might as well compare the two.
That's
right?
a good plan. Notebooks at the ready? Yeah.
I don't have my notebook. No.
Okay, calculators at the ready.
There's one on my watch. I can do that. Yeah, ready.
You don't look very ready.
No, I'm not ready. Now I'm ready. I'm going to start with some basics here. The Dolphin is slightly an odd size, so it's kind of in between a super mini and a small family hatchback. When I first saw the pictures, I thought it was sort of a Renault Zoe sized, but actually it's longer than a Megane Electric and only 52 millimeters shorter than the ID.3. Surprisingly big car. But here's the thing though, right? This has been designed as an electric car from the ground up. That's not how they did the Corsa, that's not how they did the E208. So when it comes to building an electric car from the ground up, it means you can push the wheels all the way out to the side to make more space in the cabin. I mean, design-wise, it's a weird looking thing, but I kind of appreciate the quirkiness, if you will. Like, I quite like the sort of clamshell bonnet, and I quite like the look down the side and the sort of the curvature and the diggy in bits down the side. It looks quite nice. I mean, the wheels look quite diddy, don't they, underneath the massive wheel arches, but there's a bonus there, because they're just normal sized tyres. They're not going to cost you too much to replace. I do have an annoyance though. That is with the badge at the back. I mean, build your dreams. It's lovely. I like an inspirational quote, but this is a small car, you know, it's not running for president. Build your dreams. Just stick with BYD, it's fine.
You will be pleased to hear that there are no slogans in sight on the VW ID.3. That kind of exuberance has been strictly banned from Volkswagen these days. Well, they do allow it, but actually they just save it all up for the VW ID buzz, not for all the rest of the cars. Anyway, when a manufacturer gives a car a facelift, they normally liven things up with a bit of chrome here and there, some nice shiny black trim around the place. But not with this car. You see, Volkswagen has actually gone the other way and toned almost everything down. It turns out that buyers are happy to embrace the idea of a VW electric car, but they still want it to look just like one of their existing cars. Nothing to scare the horses. So all the wacky stuff like the Lego-inspired bumpers, the stickers, the turquoise paint options have been stripped back and replaced with more traditional bits of design, which has made some members of the Electrifying team quite sad, but not me, because I think it just looks more Volkswagen-y.
Volkswagen-y isn't a word.
It is now. Volkswagen-y.
I know you probably won't agree, but I think it looks a little classier than the BYD. It's only 50mm longer than the Dolphin, but it's wider and lower, so I think it feels a sleeker, more grown-up piece of design.
I, for one, believe that being grown up is overrated, which is why I believe that this interior in the Dolphin is actually quite exciting. I mean, this is this is kind of understated compared to the version that we drove in the international launch. That was pink and lilac with some white bits and stuff like that dotted around. That was just completely bonkers. This, I think, still looks very nice. I mean, where do I start, you know? Curvy lines. There's no straight lines in here whatsoever. Everything has been thought about. You've got two screens, both of which are bigger than what's in Ginny's ID.3. This is 12.8 inches and it has a party trick. You can do that. Shaboom! I mean, I don't know why you would need to do that. You don't really need to do that. But it does it if you want it to do it. Like that. See? There we go. It's a bit of excitement, isn't it? But look, everything in here, like the quality of how everything's all been bolted together, is actually quite impressive. It feels more expensive than what it actually is. There's only like a few dotted about cheap feeling bits. So like scratchy plastics down here, the gear selector feels a bit cheap, and then you've got a bit of gloss going on, which we all know collects dust. But apart from that, it's very nice in here. These seats are very comfortable. Now, I do have to point out, we did say earlier, we're not allowed to drive this because this is a prototype, so it's not legally registered to drive here in the UK. But from the version that we drove when we went to the international launch, we would expect this to drive the same, which is pretty nice and smooth. Yeah, no complaints from me.
You know what? It's a good job we're comparing this facelifted VW ID.3 with the Dolphin. Because if we were using the original model, I reckon I'd be waving the white flag right now. That's because the first ID.3s were, how do I put this nicely, a bit basic. They were pretty basic. You could find lots of cheap plastics, hard edges, buttons that weren't buttons, and some pretty drab looking fabrics. It was all very sad and very un-Volkswagen-y. What? Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm filming.
No, it's still not a word.
Like I said, it is a word now.
No.
It's a word. More Volkswagen-y. It's really nice to see that Volkswagen has opened up the purse strings, given its designers more than 20 quid to furnish the interior of the ID.3. It's definitely not as Ryanair as the earlier version was. It just feels better put together, more attention to detail, more Volkswagen-y.
No.
What? Now.
No.
What?
No,
It is a
it's not.
Bye.
It's
But
not. It,
Volkswagen-y. The fabrics and the plastics are all much nicer now, and it does feel like a car that wears a 30-odd thousand pound price tag. The screen, though, is still pretty basic. It's smaller than the Dolphins, and it's still got the awful sliders that don't work properly. And when it gets dark, which it actually does quite a lot in this country, as it does in large parts of the world, none of the sliders are backlit, so you can't actually see them. It drives me mad. Apparently that fix is coming though, we just haven't got it yet. On the positive side though, Volkswagen has spent time making the system faster, it's more user-friendly. It's all right now. It's not the prettiest or the most intuitive system that we've come across, but it doesn't crash all the time like the old one does, so it's definitely an improvement.
Now, you may look at the outside of this car and you would assume it's not very practical, but no, look at this. Look at this. There is so much space back here. Look, your passengers are not going to complain whatsoever sat back here. Couple of pockets there, bit of charging there, couple of cup holders there. Yeah, this is very nice back here, very nice. The boot, however, we need to discuss that. Right, the boot is what I would call okay. You've got 345 litres of space. When you fold down these seats, you've got 1,310 litres, right? But it's the shape of it that makes it quite fiddly. So you've got a lip there and the sill is kind of circular. So when you're putting in things like suitcases and stuff, it gets a little bit fiddly. However, there's lots of space underneath the boot floor. Yeah, so you can put your charging cables and cake and things.
There is no shortage of space here in the back of the ID.3. But this bench just feels a bit more basic than the one in the Dolphin. And there's no cup holders here like the BYD has. But there are a couple of USB-C ports. I reckon the ID.3 would have the edge if you have to carry 3 in the back. But if you want the same view up here that the Dolphin gives you, you're going to have to fork out an extra £3,070 for the exterior pack option, which is quite a lot, isn't it? So the boot. Well, that has 380 litres of space with the boot up, which is 40 litres more than Nicola's Dolphin. It also has a wider opening and less of a lip to get stuff over, so it's a bit more usable. Tumble these rear seats forward and that volume goes up to 1,267 litres of space, which is actually a little bit less than the Dolphin offers, curiously. I did drive this car only a couple of weeks ago, and overall it does drive well. A bit too hard for me on some road surfaces, but it really comes into its own around town, where it's light steering, great turning circle and peppy performance really do make this a fantastic city car.
Now, the BYD Dolphin is coming to the UK with 2 battery options. So we have the entry-level model, which has a 44.9 kilowatt-hour battery, or then if you step up and then up again to the top, which is basically what we've got here, then you get a 60.9 kilowatt-hour battery. And it uses LFP chemistry, which basically means it doesn't use cobalt, which is a very good thing. And also the battery uses BYD's blade layout, which means that they can squeeze in more cells into a tighter space. It's all very clever. Range? Well, that's quoted as 265 miles on the WLTP cycle. Unlike Ginny's VW, the Dolphin comes with a heat pump as standard, so we would expect to see less range drop-off in colder weather. And if that wasn't enough tech for you, the Dolphin also comes with vehicle to load, or V2L, which means that you can power stuff from your car. Charging is done via the port here. So you've got 11 kilowatt AC charging, which is pretty much the same as all other cars. The DC rapid charging isn't as fast as you'd want it to be. I mean, it's 88 kilowatts, so it'll do 10 to 80% in around 40 minutes. Could be quicker.
The ID.3 does have a slightly smaller battery than the Dolphin at 58 kilowatt hours, but you can buy a larger 77 kilowatt hour pack if you need to do more miles between charges. Range? Well, that's identical to the Dolphin at 265 miles on the WLTP cycle. But if you want a heat pump to extend your winter range, that's going to cost you £970 as an option. Ouch. Like the Dolphin, the ID.3 can charge it up to 11 kilowatts on AC, and it has faster DC charging that's got a peak speed of 120 kilowatts. That means a 10 to 80% charge will take around 35 minutes on a rapid charger, so about 5 minutes less than the Dolphin.
So what we've learnt so far in terms of spec and size and practicality, they're pretty much same.
Yeah, true. Okay. VW is better at some things and the BYD is better at other things. So basically, it's a score draw going into extra time.
Oh, football analogy.
Love a football analogy.
All right, then can I bring on a couple of super subs?
Oh, yes.
Right, let's bring on Mrs. Price and Ms. Equipment. She's divorced. It didn't work out for some reason.
I do worry about you sometimes. Okay, we're starting with Ms. Equipment or Mrs. Price? Mrs. Price.
So this is actually £6,000 cheaper than this. And that's if you go for the top spec of that. Okay. If you go for like the comfort model, like the spec slightly less, so you get slightly less equipment, there's £7,500 between the two. But it's not just that. It's also Ms. Equipment, it was Ms, wasn't it? Ms. Equipment, the divorced lady who equipment, the wonderful footballer.
Does she not want to be a Miss now?
No, she's done.
Okay, all right.
This will have loads of equipment as standard, whereas you would have to pay extra when it comes to a VW. Things like a panoramic sunroof.
Oh, and you love one of those.
I love a panny roof.
Loves a panna roof.
Things like vehicle to load, a heat pump, that nice rotating screen thing, a reversing camera. There's more.
You got me with the heat pump.
I know, right?
I love a heat pump. So basically what we have here are 2 brands, one of which is one of the oldest car brands in the world that the majority of the British public will have heard of. The other, a new brand that will be a new face for so many people. So what I'm wondering is, how are people going to vote? Are they going to go with their hearts their heads, or are they going to go with their wallets? What do you reckon?
I mean, it's a tricky one because they've got even more affordable cars that's coming out. So you've got the Seagull that's coming out next year. I mean, that's going to be even cheaper than this. And we know that there are well-known car makers out there that are really trying to break into the affordable market and doing their best, but they're already there.
I know.
They're doing it. They're selling their car. It's working.
Yeah, ID.2 is still a long, long way away from arriving. You know, what Volkswagen did with the Beetle, the original people's car in the 50s and 60s, by opening up affordable driving to so many people, I reckon that BYD are going to do now in our electric age.
Can I ask you a question?
You can ask me anything you want.
I think you already know what I'm going to ask you.
No, well, it could be any question, knowing you, to be honest.
Which one for dinner?
Oh, okay. Sandwich for lunch?
What you choosing?
Oh, don't do that.
If you were to drive one of them away today, which are you having?
Look, it's difficult because obviously I want to drive them both back to back, and we can't do that until we can get a car that's not a prototype. But purely at the moment, because I'm northern and I like to look after my pennies, I'm a bit tight.
Tight northern.
I just think it's really hard to ignore the value for money that you get with the BYD. You know, I would have always gone for a Volkswagen. It was the car that, you know, we always owned growing up. I've owned tons of Volkswagens over the years. But it is just hard to ignore things like the heat pump and the panel roof and all of that you get for the cash. What about you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, I'm a southerner, but so I'm not particularly
You're
tight, but
flashy.
I like things that are fancy. And this feels fancier. That bores me. Oh, I shouldn't have said that like that. But it does. It bores me. When you've sat in this and then you sit in that, that feels a bit boring. That feels a bit more pizzazzy. And I like a bit of pizzazz. But by all means, let us know what you would choose. Pop in the comment section below which one you're choosing.
We do. And of course, we will have first drives of this car on UK roads coming very, very soon. So if you're not subscribed, why aren't you subscribed? Go on, click that little button. It's around here somewhere.
Oh, and you see that little bell button? Tap that and you'll get notifications for every time we release a new video. Lovely.